is Heather. Our first presenter's name is Jason Poor. His father's name is Rich Poor, if that helps you remember. Jason is a double major in journalism and telecommunications at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. Jason is a punter for the football team and a board operator and reporter for Indiana Public Radio. In his spare time, this Nashville, Tennessee native enjoys playing disc golf, and he hopes to play a course in every state. His presentation is Leading a Team of Leaders. Yay!
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I didn't know I was getting an intro, so that's exactly what I was going to pretty much say to start, so now I don't have to. It's great to be here. I'm really honored just to be able to stand in front of you today and excited to be a part of this organization and even get the chance to speak. And, you know, when I applied for the spot, I told them I needed a screen and a PowerPoint, but as she mentioned in my intro, I am a journalist. Anyone else journalism majors? Anybody? TCOM? Okay. Well, with journalism, the cool thing about my job is that my stuff's never done until it actually airs. And so I had an entire presentation planned for you, but I decided to do a little extra digging last night, and I found new information that I thought might tie in better, and I completely redid everything I was going to say. So I don't have a PowerPoint for you today, but I hope you will still enjoy my presentation. So, as she said, I go to Ball State University. It's about 45 minutes to an hour northeast of Indianapolis, about 10 hours from here, if anyone drove. And I'm a sports guy. Everything I know about leadership, everything I know about teams is through sports. I started playing when I was 2 years old, and I'm still playing now in college. And I wanted to come in and talk to you guys about how fun this is for me, thinking about like the Olympics and how, you know, like starting off, especially these talks, is kind of like me coming in and like lighting the torch, bringing in the torch and starting everything off. And so it turns out that Mortarboard has a poem called The Torch, which was written in 1925 by Elizabeth Fury of our Torchbearer chapter at Florida State University. And I'm going to read through that poem for you all now. So, The Torch. The God of great endeavor gave me a torch to bear. I lifted it high above me in the dark and murky air. And straightway, with loud hosannas, the crowd proclaimed its light, and followed me as I carried my torch through the starless night. Till drunk with the people's praises and mad with vanity, I forgot 'twas the torch that they followed, and fancied they followed me. Then slowly my arm grew weary, upholding the shining load, and my tired feet went stumbling over the dusty road. And I fell with the torch beneath me. In a moment the light was out, when lo, from the throng, a stripling sprang forth with a mighty shout. Caught up the torch as it smoldered, and lifted it high and tall, till fanned by the winds of heaven, it fired the souls of all. And as I lay in the darkness, the feet of the trampling crowd passed over and far beyond me, its peons proclaiming aloud. And I learned in the deepening twilight the glorious verity, 'tis the torch that the people follow, whoever the bearer may be. So I'm going to bring in the torch, I guess, today, but I'm going to pass it on to the next person and the next person, and hopefully onward down, maybe even to the next people who continue on with my chapter. And I think what makes this really unique, tying this into sports and to teams, is that Mortarboard is really unique in that we're not just a team, but we're a team of leaders. You know, everyone in Mortarboard is people who have excelled in their area of the field. You know, it could be, for me, athletics. It could be, for some people, Greek life, academics, everything. And Mortarboard brings all those people together into one group. And that's what makes us all really unique and really special. But the question is, how do you lead a team of leaders? You know, when everybody's qualified, when everyone should be able to stand up and be the president or be in charge of a project, how do you distribute that? How do you stand out? How do you keep everyone moving forward and working together, not only happily, but efficiently? And today I'm going to try and explain that. So first of all, what is a team? I mean, a team is anyone working together with one goal in mind. You know, again, most of my experience with team has been through sports. I've been on teams my entire life. And I kind of want to look first back to middle school, which was the first time I really got the chance to be a leader. It was my 8th grade year, and I was the captain of our 8th grade soccer team. I started doing soccer. Eventually the ball went over the goal instead of in it, so I switched to football, and that's how I ended up on a football team. But So my 8th grade year, I was the unanimous captain. I got to, call the coin toss at every game. I was the guy. Everyone looked to me. My coach looked to me. My coach was actually even a rugby coach. He didn't know anything about soccer. And so my 8th grade year, he would call me into his room early in the mornings, and he would have me script the drills we would do during practice. He asked me what players we should keep and who we should cut, which was really overwhelming power as like a 13-year-old, because I thought I was pretty cool. But it's one of the seasons that I look upon the most fond, and I remember it so well, and I loved every game, even though we barely won. I mean, I think we won 3 games out of 19. We ended up winning 1 in the regular season, we won 2 in the playoffs, but then we ended up getting beat and losing. And when I look back on that season, I always think, I enjoy it, but I always think about what maybe I could have done better. And the one thing I never did was I never encouraged anyone else to lead. I was so stuck up on being the guy, being the person that everyone looked to, everyone could turn to and ask questions, that I wasn't interested in improving my other members. And yes, they all had different positions on the field, but even with like the coin toss at the beginning of the game, every game I would go out for the coin toss and they'd send another kid with me, and every single one of them asked me, "Oh, can I do the coin toss this time?" I was like, "No, I'm the captain. I get to do the coin toss." And I never thought until much later that maybe if I would have let them do the coin toss, maybe if I would have empowered other people, that they could have become leaders as well. And instead of me being the one leader on my team, we would have had a group of 8th graders, seniors, whatever age you want to put at it. And instead of just me trying to lead, I could have had a group. And I know that overall we probably would have had a much better season and probably transitioned a lot better on the field. And that kind of ties directly into our poem. We see our protagonist here who's talking about carrying the torch. He's talking about how he kind of gets stuck up in this power and, how much he or she is enjoying carrying it. But at some point, they falter, they fall, and someone else has to pick up the torch and continue going. So how do you continue to lead when you're not in the prime, largest leadership position? What if you've fallen? So that's where servant leadership comes into play. With every team, you're going to have one defining voice. For our football team up at school, we have 5 captains. And those are the guys that whenever we have a problem, we can go to. If it's academic, if it's anything with parking services, we can go to these guys, and generally they know who to talk to help us out. But we also have coaches. And at the end of the day, our head coach gets the final word, no matter what happens. And some people are going to be happy, some people aren't. And maybe the best way for a lot of people to lead, myself included, is to act as a servant leader. Coming out of high school, I was a pretty cocky hotshot athlete. I'd had a lot of high school success, started 3 years, went to this all-star game, this all-state, everything. And I got to college, and it was a completely different world. My first year there, we had seniors who were really good, and they deserved to get their chance, and they got to play. And going into the spring of my freshman year, I ended up breaking my ankle on my kicking foot. And I was out for pretty much 5 months. And I couldn't do any practice. I couldn't do really anything with the team. I just kind of showed up to practice and sat there. And by the time I came back, they'd already brought in a couple other players, and I was farther back on the depth chart than I was before I got injured. So then you get to this spring, and I had a chance again to compete for a starting job, and I ended up finding out that I had a stress fracture in my lower back. And that completely ended really my hopes of playing for our team. I went through 6 months of rehab. I've done everything I needed to do. And I can perform athletically again. I'm not as good as I was, but I can run again and work out, and just getting to be a part of the team is still really cool. But my leadership role has completely changed. Everything that I thought I was going to be for my school is nothing that I am. And, maybe the best way for me to lead now is not necessarily, being the guy who runs in there and kicks the game-winning field goal. Maybe my role is that if someone has a bad practice, or if someone just is upset about anything, maybe at another player, I can go up to them after practice and be like, "Hey man, don't let them get to you. Don't worry about that." Or, "Hey, yeah, you had a bad practice today, but you're still one of the best receivers we have on our team. You're still one of the best players." There's an important role that encouragement plays in all forms of leadership. And, maybe I can't be the one to go out there and act, but I can support my teammates and I can give them encouragement and lead in other ways. And no, it's not as glorious as other positions, but still it gives me a chance to still connect with my team, to still lead the way I want to. And then mortarboard's become a new window for me for that over the last couple months. So how do you lead leaders? That's a big question. And you know, when I first got elected president, I wasn't exactly sure how to go about it, because I know I've had experiences being the one in charge, being the one kind of in power, and I know how hard it is for me to delegate, but I realized that really that's the best way to do it. It's amazing how important communication is, not only for us, but for any organization, any business. And I feel like a lot of our generation has fallen apart from that. I feel like we are so much into texting and into emails. And there's a place for those. There's always a place for emails, but there's just something about meeting with people face to face and actually not only talking to them, but letting them know that you're listening to them, that you're genuinely interested in what they have to say, and you try to implement all those ideas together. And honestly, with mortarboard in particular, there are going to be things that other people are better at than me. I mean, they all can lead. Everyone in your chapter has to have some form of leadership ability. That's what we're about. They've obviously excelled at what they do, so I know they have the potential to lead. And so I've already started up with my group. I mean, we have a chain of emails. We met a couple of extra times, and it's amazing the response that I've gotten out of people just by showing them that I'm interested. Just showing them that, you know, yeah, I'm the president. That's great, but I'm not the only voice in this organization. You know, every voice is important in every aspect, but I really feel like if you all turn to your leaders and turn to the rest of the people in your group, that you'll find the best way to lead them is to let them lead as well. And maybe you got to take a step back sometimes, but there's always extra ways to lead. So now I'm going to take a slight step back and go into our poem once more on the torch, and I'm just going to read a couple lines. So we have, you know, we go in the beginning and we talk about the person who's carrying the torch and how he's excited. And straight away with loud hosannas the crowd proclaimed its light and followed me as I carried my torch through the starless light. Till drunk with the people's praises and mad with vanity, I forgot 'twas the torch that they followed and fancied that they followed me. Then you skip to the ending and we read that, and I learned in the deepening twilight the glorious verity, 'tis the torch that the people follow, whoever the bearer may be. And I thought this connected well to my conclusion, because, you know, not only stepping down here for someone else to come up to speak, or not only afterwards when my year of presidency is up with mortarboard and the next person gets to come up, you know, there is this idea of passing down the torch. And, you know, the torch is really actually connected to a lot of things in mortarboard. There's like the Gold Torch Award for chapters. I read through the whole book last night. There was a lot of good stuff in there. But I kind of want to change the analogy. I kind of want to change this idea, because you always hear of the passing down the torch. And I don't want to pass it down. I want the people who follow me, I want everyone in this room, everyone that I meet at this conference, I don't want to pass my torch to them. I just want them to pick up their own. And I want to light theirs. Because mortarboard has such a unique system. I mean, we have all these leaders. We know we're going to have leaders coming in next. We have a ton of leader alumni, some that will be here today, some that we will meet. And it's not just about the people who are here now. It's about the people who are here, the people who have been here, and the people who will follow. And I don't want to just pass my torch on to someone. I want to light theirs. Because the cool thing about fire is that if I use my torch to light hers, or yours, mine doesn't get any smaller. My fire doesn't diminish. The fire only grows. So I propose that we don't pass the torch, we just light more. Not only at this conference, but throughout all of our mortarboard experiences and for the years to come. Thank you very much.